All right. Well, first off, just before I get started, this is a very small painting. It is 4 inches high by 6 inches wide. I have most of my colors off the camera because it's such a small painting. I have my pink donut. Ta-da, look at that pink donut. All right, so I have my pink donut sitting here off to the side as my reference. And unlike the last donut painting I did just a little bit ago, it actually has a hole in the middle. So it shows different forms. But when I first get going, I'm going to take some of this. I'm not going to put in a tone or anything. I'm just going to start and go direct on it. This is just a little bit more open. I'm going to have the donut shifted a little bit more to the right than to the left. So center is right about here, and I have it shifted over a little bit. And that's because I want to make room for the cast shadow. So this is a very, very small painting. Maybe I'll make it a little bit taller. And there's an ellipse that is sitting up at the top like this, and then a vertical plane because it's kind of like a cylinder, and then an ellipse down at the bottom here. And inside this donut is another ellipse. So I'm just going to indicate the elliptical changes that are there. And now I'm going to divide the light shadows from the light shapes from the shadow shapes. And just looking quickly, there's a shadow that's being cast right here. There's a shadow shape that is being cast right about there. So that is the difference. This is shadow and this is shadow. Everything else is in the light, and then I have a cast shadow that is sitting somewhere around there. So there's my quick little drawing. Man, so nice. Look at that quick little drawing. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty. I'm going to just start to paint. And when you start painting, make sure that your paintbrush is relatively clean. It doesn't have to be totally clean. You can see there's just a little bit of bluish in there. And I'm going to take this natural tone, which to me looks like a yellow ochre. I don't have yellow ochre. I have a transparent oxide yellow, which is basically yellow ochre. And I'm going to take a little bit of white with that and a little bit of transparent oxide red. And that, when I'm comparing this color and value to the donut, it's kind of what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that value. So now I need to get more paint because that's about the right value. A little bit more white. Oh, that was too much white. No, I should stop. That's too much. I should end this right now. I'm just teasing. I don't want to end it. I got to get this painting done. Okay, so I'm going to start off with this and place it right here in the donutty part. What part is that called? I don't even know what the dough part? The dough part. Okay, and it kind of flattens out a little bit right here. And it gets a little bit darker in value over here because it's in shadow. So I'm going to take a little bit of raw umber, go into that, a little bit of perylene red, and come into this shadowed area. And brush it across. I hope you can see those shapes pretty good. I hope. We'll see. All right, clean off my brush a little bit. Need to get some more of this good, beautiful value. It comes up a little bit right there. Comes down. I'm not wanting to blend this too much. I want to keep it kind of raw. So that's what I'm going to do. Keep it raw there. Then I'm going to take some of this Naples yellow. I don't know if you can see it, but it's just kind of off the screen. There's the Naples yellow. And there's a lighter value that is sitting right in the middle. I think that's the separation of the top and the bottom part of the dough. I'm just going to take this Naples yellow and paint it here in the middle. And it curves up with that ellipse. Got to keep that ellipse true and good. So lighter value that's sitting there. And then on the shadow side, it does change color. It's not as yellow. It's a little bit more cooler in temperature. So I'm going to take some of this king blue, which is a bluish color, obviously, and some of the Naples yellow. And I'm just trying to make a lighter value. Now going with the transparent oxide yellow, because the Naples yellow is a little bit too light. I'm going to come around the back here and add in this little band. So now I have two different colors. This part that is in the shadow, which is cooler, versus this part that's a little bit lighter. And I'm trying to do it in as few brush strokes as possible. I'm going to get a little bit more Naples yellow. And when I'm looking at it, at the top bottom half part of this, it gets a little bit lighter, and then it softens in transition as it's coming around the side like that. And gonna drag it up and around the edge. There we go. So this part of the donut's gonna start to come to life. I have the shadow side that I'm gonna start with because it's a darker pink. Let's go with this darker pink. So new brush, gotta get a new brush. So this one's a little bit bluish. I'm gonna go with quinacridone magenta. That's a good color. I'm just gonna paint the quinacridone magenta there and here. And when I'm looking at the actual donut, it is really close to that quinacridone magenta. It's just fun to say, quinacridone magenta. Now the downside with quinacridone magenta is that it is transparent. So you can see when I'm putting the brush strokes down, it is not filling in the shape very much. I can get different values. If I scrub it, I can get a lighter value right there. You see that? And that's good, but it's not the right pink that I'm going for. Now, if I go with this other red that I have here, which is called Perylene red, man, I keep hitting stuff. It is a more vibrant red. And the mixture between the quinacridone magenta and the violet red, or the Perylene red, is a little bit more orange than the quinacridone. And when I take white and add it to the Perylene, you can see that it's quite pink. But if I take that same white and add it to the quinacridone magenta, let's get a little bit more of that stuff on there. You can see that this is a little bit more pink than this. And I want to have both. In fact, at the top on this, I'm seeing a little bit more of a bluish tone in that purple. Same with the top here, just a little bit more of that bluish tint. And right now it looks like I don't know what I'm doing, which is probably true. It's not true. I know exactly what I'm doing all the time. Whenever I'm painting, it makes a difference to know what you're doing. Actually, it doesn't make a difference. Just paint and stop second guessing yourself. Am I talking to myself? I'm probably talking to myself instead of anybody that's watching or not watching. All right, so this top plane, I want to make that a little bit more flat. So I'm going to go with this Perylene red. Also some Perylene red there, and bringing it around the edge. I want to try to keep this form and shape. I'm going to go with the quinacridone magenta, just a little bit more down here along the edge of where the dough. I've established that the brown stuff is called the doughy part, not the frosting. All right, and then a little bit more quinacridone magenta. So I'm trying to keep the chroma high on the quinacridone and the Perylene. And I'm trying to simplify the brushwork on it because as soon as I start to put some white, I'm going to just take the white and put it on top instead of mixing it in. Here's some white. Oh no, gonna put it on there. You know, people tell you never use white. Well, if you want to keep the chroma high, you got to use some white because it is achromatic. I'm gonna go and put some white here and also some white here because the light is coming at an angle and hitting this part and this part more than the top part. So I'm gonna soften out those edges just a little bit more, flip my brush, soften out those edges, and do the same thing over here, soften out those edges. All right, then after it comes in just a little bit here, I want to soften out that transition or edge. I'm just going back and forth between these shapes. That's starting to look a little bit better. Starting to get some form in here. This purple mark that I have up at the top there, I want to kind of soften out that transition. Oh, much better. So I pulled it from the pink into that blue section to kind of soften it out so that that form turns a little bit better. And this needs to be more flat at the top, right before it transitions. Now, this is the hardest part. How do I get it from the light into the shadow? And there's a core shadow that's going to sit here. I'm not going to darken this value because I feel like that's a dark enough value. So I'm just going to pull from the top here, drag it around, and pull it down to the side there. So one brush stroke. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to refine this part just a little bit more. Now you can see that the form is starting to create shape. Sorry if you're seeing my glasses in there. Gosh, it's so terrible to see my glasses in there. All right, and then in here, it actually gets a little bit more purple. So I'm gonna go with ultramarine blue and place it just down here because it does get a nice dark purpley color. Bring it out. I want to keep that edge relatively hard. I killed that edge because I skipped it too much. There we go. And then I want to also put a little bit of purple over here for that core. Yeah, that's looking good. All right. Now that I have my simple shapes placed in there, I am going to start to increase the highlight. Clean my brush off. Come back over here. I want to refine this edge just a little bit more. Maybe take some more of that quinacridone magenta and rework that form just a little bit more so it's turning in on itself. There we go. Okay. Now I need to differentiate between the pink frosting and the doughy part. That's what I'm calling it. So I'm going to get a sable brush. Sables hold less paint. And I'm going to put little cast shadows from this frosting that is on the dough. I'm going to use this same color. Actually, I'm going to add a little bit of perylene red to it because that pink is casting some pink, reddish tone onto the dough. So I'm just going to put in a little bit of a cast shadow there and a little bit of a cast shadow there. I think actually I might need to go just a little bit darker. There we go. Now it's starting to create a little lip on that thing. Then I need some darker values that are creating a cast shadow on that backside. So I'm taking some raw umber, some perylene red. It's a nice dark value, and put it on the under part of those guys right there. Okay. Is that working? I think that's working. Then I have reflected light that is bouncing in on this side. And it's cooler than it is here because it's bouncing off of a white surface, but it's not as light in value as it is there. So I'm going to take some of this blue, king blue, and I'm going to place it just a little bit in here and mix it in so that it will turn it a little bit more towards the violet side of things, but also give it more of a reflected light feel to it. Now, this guy has a lot of sprinkles on it, and I don't know if I want to put a bunch of sprinkles on it. Just because sprinkles take a lot of time, and they're not really fun to paint, I don't think. But I do need to put it on a surface, so here I go. Gonna go this darker value. I'm gonna start from this back part and bring it over under the donut. Some perylene red, just to darken up some of that stuff. I could go with any color really, just as long as it's darker in value than what's going on here, because it's curving underneath. So you have the donut that is a vertical plane, and then it starts to tuck under. And when it tucks under, that's your cast shadow onto the surface. And the surface is pretty white. When I'm looking at it, it looks pretty warm because light's bouncing off of the dough of the nut and bouncing off of the surface that it's on, and light is bouncing back and forth between it. So I'm going to take some of this raw umber and make this guy just sing. This guy, can I say that? Make this donut sing. All right, now part of that is starting to make sense. Okay, now I have cast shadow. Oh, no, wait. Before I do the cast shadow, I need to refine this just a little bit more. When I'm looking at it, there's a nice little highlight. It's not that big of a highlight, but a subtle highlight that exists on the pink of the frosting. So I'm going to take some more of this white and right along the edge here. There we go. A couple of brush strokes. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the opening that is sitting right here. Just a little bit. Because I want this to look glossy. Now this form just needs to be softer in its transition. There we go. All right, now I will come in and start to paint that shadow. Now what I like to do with these shadows is I will take perylene red, just like straight out of the tube, and put it just on the back side here, like that. And then if I want it to be like a violet color, I will take the king blue and put it on there too, but I don't know, maybe I want to have a different color. I think it'd be okay to have a different color. Like, let's go with transparent oxide yellow, which is basically yellow ochre in a transparent form. Transparent oxide yellow. There we go. And then if I take some of the king blue, put it across there. So these are the darker values that I'm kind of using. Does it matter what color I put in that cast shadow? No, it doesn't matter. At least I don't think it does. Maybe you think it matters. I know, maybe you're like, oh no, McGarren, you totally just killed that painting. Meaning killed it dead, not like killed it as in it's so awesome. Do people say that anymore? Like, oh, you killed it. That's awesome. There we go. Start to build out that. Okay, gonna keep that relatively wet with the King's Blue. And now we're gonna shift into the background. Or, you know what, I think I wanna put a little bit more detail in the dough of the nut. All right, let's see if I can get away with it. So I'm gonna take some of this mixture that I have and go at the midpoint here. Just put a slight accent. Remove the paint that I just picked up. Do another one. Just to show a little bit more detail, because I'm not going to put the I forgot what those things are called. Man, what is up with my brain today? Having a hard time thinking of words. The little guys that go on the top of the donut, whatever they're called. Man. Somebody help me out, please. All right, so just making a slight little division on that portion. And I'm thinking that that's working out pretty good. Okay, now the background. And I like to make it relatively white. So I will take Naples yellow in the foreground and white maybe that's too Naples yellowy. Throw that a little bit higher in some of this part and I'll add some blue to it. And more white. Because I want to lighten up the value so that it looks like it's white instead of yellow. You know what? I think I might have put on too much Naples yellow. So what do I do? Oh, I've ruined the painting. Maybe I should just give up. Stop doing it. No way, Jose. That's not a choice. I've committed. I'm into this thing. Got to clean my painting a little bit, my brushes, because I got some transparent oxide brown, yellow, whatever color that is, on the brush. All right, more white. There we go. That's some white. Yes. Mix it around with all these different colors. I'm not going skimpy on the paint. Why would I go skimpy on the paint? I don't want to spend time sitting there mixing on the canvas or on the palette forever. I want to make things a little bit easier for me. So, okay, so this is the fun part. This is where I get and move it into, oh no, I put pink there. Where I get it into the actual subject matter, where it's surrounding the donut, and I need to focus on edge quality. So I have enough paint put onto my canvas that I can play around with, because I want to be able to play around with that. But I'm going to come in here and take this brush, kind of chisel in a little bit on the shape of that donut. There we go. Yeah, buddy. And that cast shadow doesn't start right there, so I'm going to pull that paint off, dry my paintbrush off. Let's try it again. So rework that edge. There, grab some more paint, and I'm going to bring this paint up closer to the object. Clean my brush off. And this seems to be a part where I have a lot of students that have issues. They like to paint right up to the edge, and then it usually looks funky because it'll leave holes in the canvas or the painting. And I say make your painting just a little bit bigger, or your object just a little bit bigger than the background. So what I did there is I just went one brush stroke across, create a harder edge where it's being cast, and it kind of mixed in with those other colors, which I'm kind of digging because the variety of the color that's coming into play is nice. There, I want to soften out that edge just a little bit more. There we go. Yes. All right, now I'm gonna wrap it around the back side here, soften out this edge a lot more because that really needs to be softened out. So a couple of brush strokes there. Now to do the top part. So I'm gonna take the King Blue, put a little bit of King Blue at the top there, along with white, more white, and more white. Because I want the value of this background to be close to the same. I'm building up a little bit of paint because I can't paint where this clamp is. So I'm gonna have a little bit of extra paint sitting at the top there so I can, when I remove it, I can just fill it in with the extra paint that's there. More white paint, more white paint. And I'm gonna start to mix it with that Naples yellow. All right, so Naples yellow and King Blue tend to make a very soft green, very neutral type green, which I like, especially when I have an object that is pinkish or fleshy. All right, now to go around the donut. Again, this is the tricky part. So I want to get it right up to the edge so that my brush stays pretty clean, right up to the edge there. Right up to the edge there. And then I'll creep in on it and just pulling down some of these colors and values. Okay, so now, right along that edge, you see that? Now I'm gonna take it and go right along so that the brush is touching that violet, and I'm softening the edge, but not too much. And there's a softer edge area. Bring it around the bottom. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Now what happens if I mess up there and I have to clean it up? I clean off my brush, I come back, oh, well, I thought I was clean. Clean off the brush, bring it back, and I start to touch up some of those edges. Pretty easy, right? Now, one thing that I don't really like is all of the various directions of the brush strokes. So I will clean that up here in a second after I get this brought in. There we go. Yeah. Okay, cleaning off the brush again, and I want to clean up that edge right there. Comes down a little bit more. There we go. And now I will do vertical brush strokes. So if I do vertical brush strokes like this, it makes it so when I have a painting that I'm looking at and the light is coming directly down on it, the brush stroke is not going to be distracting from the image. Got to clean the brush again. I picked up some purple along the way. There we go. Now the only downside of doing this is you have to get really close to that edge. And I'll come down here and do the same thing. And over here. Kind of just killing that, all those various brush strokes. And maybe you can see it in the video, maybe you can't, but the horizontal brush strokes that I have in here are picking up some of that light, which can be distracting from the image, especially when you have a good amount of paint. So just doing a bunch of vertical strokes like this, and I'm using a bristle brush to do this, it flattens it out. And here I need to just kind of soften out that little mistake that I made. Okay, and then here I go with some blue coming across there. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Now I need to enhance that difference of ground to donut shape. So I'm going to come back in with this nice dark value. Oh, I need to go darker. And now I'm taking it and cleaning my brush off. So this is what we'd call a dry brush. So I'm just taking the color that is sitting on there and mixing it in with the other colors and values. And that edge is just a little bit too hard for my liking, so I'm going to soften out that edge. There we go. All right. So what do we think? Yay? Nay? I don't know. 30 minutes on this painting. I'm kind of digging it. Okay, I will sign my name at the bottom and hopefully sell it tonight. That would be stellar. Either way, thanks for watching. I will sign this and then go and have some lunch because I'm starving. F-L-A-C-K. There we go. All right, and off camera, I'm going to fill in the rest of that where the clamp is located. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe you learned some things. Maybe you didn't, and it was just entertaining because it's so fun to watch people paint. I think it can be. And hopefully my glasses weren't in the way. Either way, have a great day. Thanks. Bye-bye.